They thought you were invisible, but your silence was the universe's signal to them. This is not the end of you, it's the beginning of their reckoning. You've always been more than what they could see. They underestimated you, believing your stillness was weakness, thinking they could wear you down with their noise. But what they didn't realize is that your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. While they pranced around with their shallow bravado, you were quietly under construction, mastering the very forces they couldn't even fathom. And now the reckoning begins. Every time they poked and prodded, thinking they could break you, they were simply signing their own death sentence. You weren't just a person they were messing with. You were a force. You weren't fighting them. No, you were fighting the cosmic tide that backs you, the energy of the universe itself that was always with you, even when they tried to silence you. The truth is, they weren't just gambling with your patience. They were gambling with a force they could never understand. And now, as they feel the weight of your power, they're realizing too late, you were never alone. The universe has been guiding you all along, and now that you've tapped into your potential, they have no idea how to stop what's coming. But before we go any further, I need you to do something. Like this video and subscribe. Every like, every comment, every share helps spread the message that the chosen ones are rising. The universe speaks through our actions. And when you engage, you're sending a signal to the algorithm that this message needs to be heard by more souls who need to awaken to their power. So hit that like button and let's make sure the world knows the power of the chosen ones can never be underestimated. Now let's talk about the power of being chosen. It's not a blessing given lightly. It's the universe's way of saying, you are not like the rest. While others stumble in the darkness, you were crafted for the light. You felt it, that constant tension between the world's expectations of you and the deeper knowing that you were meant for something greater. You weren't put on this path to blend in, to shrink, or to be someone's punching bag. No, you were made to disrupt. And when the universe chose you, it didn't just give you a purpose, it gave you power. Now, your enemies, they feel that power. Every time you enter a room, their skin pricks with discomfort, their minds swirl with confusion. Your energy is a presence they can't ignore, even if they try. They know something is different about you. They can feel the weight of what they don't understand. You were never meant to be ordinary. They might call it arrogance, might try to paint it as too much, but deep down, they know you are the storm they weren't prepared for. And every time they tried to knock you down, they only strengthened your resolve. They've been battling with you, but what they failed to realize is that they weren't fighting you. They were fighting the universe itself. And the universe never loses. Now, the time has come for you to rise into your full potential, to walk the path that's been paved for you by forces far greater than anything they could ever throw at you. Your silence, your restraint, those were just the beginning. The true force that was always lying dormant within you is about to be unleashed. And when it is, they won't just regret underestimating you, they'll regret trying to fight against the very force that was always on your side. You are chosen, and that is more powerful than anything they've ever thrown your way. So, tell me, chosen one, are you ready to step into the truth they never wanted you to realize? That you were never alone, and that no one who ever crossed you got away untouched. Drop the number 999 in the comments if you're done hiding, done doubting, and you're ready to move like the force you've always been. When you react, when you comment, like, or share, You do more than support this message. You amplify the signal. You help another silent warrior realize they were never forgotten either. This isn't just a video, it's a transmission. And now, it's reaching the right ones. And now, let's tear this open step by step. Because if you truly are one of the chosen, something in your soul won't let you look away. You'll feel it pulling you deeper with every word. This isn't entertainment, it's remembrance. This is alignment disguised as content. Let's begin. Number 1. Echoes of the universe. They mocked the quiet, laughed at your solitude, and whispered behind your back, never realizing the echo they heard in return wasn't your voice. It was the universe answering on your behalf. They thought you were alone, thought you were cornered, discarded, easy to break, easy to ignore. But what they didn't realize is that while they were busy performing for attention, the universe was performing surgery on your soul. While they were plotting against you in rooms you weren't even in, the cosmos was shifting timelines in your favor. And now the silence they thought was weakness is roaring back at them. Because when you are chosen, you don't need to clap back. Your evolution is your vengeance. Every time they laughed when you were struggling, every time they called you too sensitive, too emotional, too much, what they were really saying was, I don't understand how someone so quiet can make me so uncomfortable. You've haunted them without even trying, because you weren't just some person in their story. You were the signal that their time was running out. And now, that signal is amplifying. That echo, it's getting louder, and they feel it. Chosen one, understand this. Your pain wasn't random. Your setbacks weren't failures. You weren't abandoned. You were being aligned. You were being pulled back so the slingshot could fire you further. You were being stripped of everything that couldn't walk into your next level. You didn't lose friends. You lost dead weight. You didn't get betrayed. You got redirected. You didn't get left behind. You were being placed ahead. You ever wonder why you keep seeing the same signs? The repeating numbers? The synchronicities? The exact words you needed showing up at the exact moment you were about to give up? That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's the universe tapping you on the shoulder saying, keep going, I'm with you. They just don't see it yet. See, chosen ones don't move by logic alone. You move by energy, by alignment, by divine instruction. That's why your timing has always been different. That's why things didn't work when you forced them, because they weren't meant for you. And when something is meant for you, it doesn't require begging, chasing, or proving. It finds you like gravity finds the ground. They'll say you were lucky. They'll say it was a coincidence. But let's get real. What looks like luck is what happens when preparation meets alignment. And you've been preparing in silence for years. They thought you disappeared, but really, you were just building where they couldn't see. You were being recalibrated for something bigger than the room they tried to keep you stuck in. Look at history. Look at the greats. Mandela was silenced in a cell before the world knew his name. Einstein was called slow, awkward, until his mind reshaped physics. Nina Simone was labeled difficult for demanding respect. Bruce Lee was told his philosophy would never be accepted. Every chosen one gets laughed at first, doubted first, discarded first. You know why? Because small minds cannot process cosmic frequency. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. That was the design. Your resonance is too deep for surface-level conversations, too intense for casual energy, too real for fake people. They weren't rejecting you. They were protecting themselves from your mirror, because your presence reflects everything they're not willing to confront in themselves. And so they ran, or they mocked, or they tried to dim you, not because you were weak, but because you were activated. Here's the part they never expected. You survived. Not only did you survive, you learned, you healed, you alchemized. And now, you've become what they can't ignore. You've become the vibration that disturbs their comfort. They don't even understand why they feel off when your name is mentioned. But the energy does, the echo does, the universe remembers. And if you're sitting there wondering why the path was so lonely, why the pressure so relentless, understand this: only diamonds get pressed, only weapons get sharpened, only chosen ones get isolated. You weren't being punished. You were being perfected, prepared, positioned. So stop doubting. Stop asking why you had to go through it. You went through it because you were built to. You endured it because you were meant to. And now the same people who tried to bury you are about to learn. They weren't burying a mistake. They were burying a seed. And baby, you're in bloom now. You are the proof that silence is sacred, that restraint is lethal, that calm isn't weakness, it's weaponized patience. You move differently because you were made for something different. And the people who laughed at your pain, who minimized your journey, they're about to watch you walk into everything they never believed you could touch. Let them say it's coincidence. Let them call it luck. Let them pretend they don't see the glow up. It doesn't matter, because you and the universe know the truth. You and the energy that carried you know every sleepless night, every silent cry, every time you almost gave up but didn't. And that echo, that's your reward. That's the vibration returning to you, amplified. So the next time someone questions why you're so calm, why you're so unbothered, smile. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. They don't need to know the strategy. Let them feel the shift and panic at the silence. Because the truth is, they never feared your voice. They feared what your silence meant. You are chosen. And now, the echo is too loud to ignore. Number 2. Alone in the crowd? Never really. They saw you standing alone and mistook it for abandonment. But the truth? The universe was clearing the room, because not everyone deserved a front row seat to your rise. You've walked into rooms where the air shifted the moment you entered. You've sat at tables where laughter felt hollow and smiles felt sharp. You've stood among so-called friends and still felt like a ghost. That's not in your head. That was your energy outgrowing the space. That wasn't loneliness. It was elevation in progress. And the universe knew it. The solitude wasn't punishment. It was a strategic recalibration of your surroundings. See, you were never truly alone. What you were feeling was the disconnect between your soul and the illusions around you. You were surrounded by people who were never really for you, people who liked your light only when it didn't outshine theirs, people who smiled while quietly hoping you'd never realize your power, people who loved the idea of you but not the truth of you. That ache you felt in those moments wasn't because you lacked something. It was because you were becoming something more. And the universe knew not everyone could come with you. That aloneness you've wrestled with, it wasn't isolation. It was insulation. You were being wrapped in the frequency of clarity, pulled out of noise, protected from leeches dressed as lovers, hidden in plain sight so the chaos couldn't touch you. You weren't being left out. You were being lifted out. Chosen ones don't belong everywhere, and that's by design. Your energy isn't here to be absorbed by the masses. It's here to shift vibrations, to awaken dormant spirits, to disturb the status quo. That's why you've always felt the disconnect. That's why surface-level conversations bore you, why fake friends exhaust you. You're not broken, you're built to resonate at a higher level. And what doesn't match will fall away. You didn't lose people. They lost alignment with who you were becoming. Some were seasonal lessons, some were ego traps, some were there just long enough to reveal your own patterns. But none of it was wasted. Every betrayal, every fake laugh, every room you had to leave. It was all part of the sorting. The universe was editing your circle while preparing your crown. And I know what you might be thinking, but why does it have to feel so heavy? Because clarity carries weight. Because becoming unshakable means losing everything that made you unstable. Because you can't carry the world and dead connections at the same time. Every goodbye the universe orchestrated for you was making space for something sacred. There were people you cried over who were secretly praying for your failure. There were hands you held that were busy sharpening knives behind your back. And every time you felt yourself slipping into despair, thinking, why am I always the outsider? The universe whispered back, because you're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand apart. Even in your loneliest moments, you were surrounded by the unseen, guided, watched over, protected by forces most can't comprehend. You felt it, the way your gut warns you before people betray you, the way your spirit pulls away before the truth even hits. That's not paranoia, that's your energetic intelligence. That's the universe hardwiring you with instincts that save your soul before your heart even knows what's happening. You were never abandoned. You were entrusted with vision, with wisdom, with purpose, and that's why the crowd never fit. That's why you never fully blended in. You were sent to disrupt, not to decorate the space. You don't echo the room, you shift its frequency. So no, you weren't alone. Not really. Every time you sat in silence, wondering where everyone went, you were being held by the very forces they couldn't see. Every moment of stillness was sacred. Every friend that left was a future storm dodged. Every detachment was divine protection. And now, look at how far you've come. You've moved through the darkness. You've cried and kept walking. You've held your own when no one else showed up. That's not weakness. That's legendary stamina. You didn't crumble. You recalibrated. You didn't give up. You got up. So let them say you're distant. Let them say you changed. You did. And that was the point. They never deserved the version of you they thought they could use. The new you, the elevated one, that energy is on divine lockdown now. Only real ones get access. And if you ever feel that old loneliness creeping back in, remind yourself, you're not alone. You're just surrounded by people too small for your energy. Let the universe finish its sorting. Let it continue to remove anything that can't match your vibration. Trust the pruning. Trust the process. Because what's coming is sacred, and it requires room to land. The next time you're standing alone in a crowded space, lift your chin. Know this, the universe is walking with you like a shadow, like armor, like a promise. And those echoes in your soul, that's your power humming. That's the whisper of everything you're becoming. You weren't forgotten. You were just being refined. And now, they don't dare to mess with you Because they finally see what the silence was hiding. Number 3. Enemies confused. The storm they didn't see. They thought you were done. They thought the silence meant you'd folded. But really, you were the storm in sleep mode, and now that you've awakened, they're praying for shelter in a war they started. Enemies never expect the storm to be silent. They expect thunder, explosions, outbursts. What they don't expect is stillness, that eerie calm, that quiet before everything breaks. And you've always been that kind of storm, the one that watches first, the one that listens, the one that lets them show every card, run their mouth, act bold, while you're calibrating, strategizing, charging. They mistook your patience for powerlessness, your silence for surrender. They laughed because you weren't clapping back. They thought you'd fallen off because you weren't chasing them for closure. But here's what they never understood. You were never standing still. You were aiming. And now that the strike has begun, now that your energy is shifting everything around you, they're confused, panicked, scrambling for the very peace they tried to steal from you. You were never weak. You were just strategic. You knew not to fight battles that weren't worth your crown. You knew not to answer every insult with words. You let them think they were winning. You let them sit comfortably in their delusions because you understood. The universe collects receipts silently, and when it's time to move, it moves through you with precision. You're not the type to bark when threatened. You're the type to wait. Wait for the energy to turn. Wait for the moment they expose themselves. You knew the truth would rise eventually, because lies are loud, but truth is patient. And you are the embodiment of that truth. Not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. You didn't retaliate. You just let your growth do the talking. See, what your enemies didn't realize is that while they were mocking your quiet, they were provoking something ancient inside you, something cosmic, something that doesn't react, it responds. That stillness you sat in wasn't emptiness. It was the gathering of power. It was the tightening of the bowstring. And now, the arrow is flying, and they never saw it coming. They're confused because the version of you they tried to destroy doesn't exist anymore. They tried to pick a fight with who you were, not realizing that every betrayal, every insult, every backhanded compliment was turning you into someone they'd never be ready for. They're stuck in the past, still playing games with a ghost, while you've leveled up into legend. Let's make something real clear. Your silence was never submission. It was selection. You were selecting which battles deserved your roar and which ones could die in your silence. And for most of them, silence was enough. Because your absence hits harder than your presence ever could. When you go quiet, it's not because you're scared, it's because you're done warning. And now they're watching you glow differently. You walk with peace, not because you've forgotten, but because you've transcended. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Your presence is the proof. You've become the very storm they thought they'd weathered. But this time, there's no safe place to hide. If you ever doubted your power, look at how nervous they are now. Look at how they whisper your name like it's a threat. They can't even enjoy the chaos they tried to throw at you, because deep down, they know. They messed with something sacred, and there's no manual for how to survive when the universe moves against you through someone it chose to protect. Chosen one, you don't need revenge, you don't need receipts, you are the result, you are the shift. Your glow-up was the earthquake, your alignment was the thunderclap, and the rain that's falling on them now, that's not karma. That's you finally moving in your full force, and they can't handle it, not because it's violent, but because it's justified. So let them sit in confusion. Let them wonder how the same person they dismissed is now the force they can't outrun. Let them sweat under the weight of the silence they used to mock, because that storm they didn't see coming, it has a name now, and it's yours. Number 4. The universe's backdraft. They thought they were just hurting you, but the universe doesn't take kindly to attacks on its own. What they started as a petty game turned into a cosmic backlash they'll never be ready for. Let's get one thing straight. When you are chosen, you're not just walking through life alone. You're backed by a force that doesn't play about you. Every slight, every betrayal, every scheme thrown your way wasn't just against you. It was against the energy that placed you, the frequency that built you, the purpose that moves through your veins like fire. People think they're playing with flesh and bone, but when they come for you, they're tapping a cosmic wire. And what happens when you mess with a live wire? You get burned. They didn't understand it back then. They thought your silence meant they got away with it. They thought the way you walked away without retaliation meant you were weak, afraid, easy to defeat. What they failed to realize is that the universe doesn't always clap back immediately. Sometimes it waits for the perfect moment to deliver consequences with precision. And when that moment comes, it doesn't come with warnings. It comes like a backdraft, silent, deadly, and completely uncontainable. Backdrafts happen when fire builds behind closed doors, quiet, unseen, and the moment oxygen hits, boom. That's how the universe works for the chosen. It holds the receipts, it stacks the pressure, it gathers the storm behind the scenes until the perfect time to unleash it. Not out of rage, but out of balance, out of justice, out of loyalty to its investment. Yes, investment, because that's what you are to the universe, an investment of energy, lessons, purpose, and evolution. You're not just a soul wandering aimlessly. You're a divine asset. And when people try to harm you, they're not just causing drama, they're interrupting divine flow. And the universe corrects all interruptions with force. Some of your enemies are already feeling it. They don't know why their energy's off, why everything feels heavy, why their relationships are crumbling, why peace has become elusive. But you know, you feel it, that quiet shift in the air. That's the universe redirecting everything they threw at you right back at them, amplified. They threw shadows. Now they're drowning in darkness. They sowed chaos. Now their life is a storm without a center. And you? You didn't have to lift a single finger. That's the real power of being chosen. You don't have to fight the way they do. Your elevation is your revenge. Your survival is their punishment. Your peace is what torments them the most, because deep down, they expected you to break. They expected you to spiral. And yet, here you are, glowing, growing, unbothered. The universe defends you in ways they'll never see coming. Sometimes it removes them from your path before they can do more damage. Sometimes it blinds them with ego, letting them fall into the pit they dug for you. Sometimes it isolates them from the very people they once used to hurt you. That's not coincidence, that's recalibration. That's divine justice. And no, this isn't about wishing bad on anyone. The chosen don't need revenge to feel whole. We don't pray for downfall. We just rise so high their lies collapse under the weight of our presence. But make no mistake, when harm is done to someone carrying divine frequency, the universe steps in. Always, quietly, ruthlessly. You've probably already seen it. Those who tried to break you suddenly falling off, getting exposed, losing what they thought was secured. You didn't have to celebrate it. You didn't even have to watch. The universe isn't interested in petty theater. It's interested in balance. What's taken must be returned. What's harmed must be healed. What's stolen must be replaced tenfold. So if you've ever wondered why things fell apart after someone mistreated you, now you know. The universe doesn't forget, and the longer you stay aligned, the more protected you become. The more you heal, the more dangerous your energy is to those who operate in lies and manipulation. Your mere existence becomes their mirror, and what they see, it haunts them. They don't fear your power. They fear the unseen power behind you, the protection they can't outsmart, the timing they can't control, the justice they can't delay. They fear that what they did to you, what they thought they got away with, was never ignored. It was just being prepared to return to sender with interest. So keep walking, chosen one. Keep healing. Keep moving with integrity. Let them laugh. Let them lie. Let them throw shade. Because the moment the universe catches the scent of betrayal against one of its own, it starts loading thunder. And when it hits, it doesn't miss. Number 5. Wolves don't howl before they hunt. They were busy dancing in the spotlight, thinking noise meant dominance, while you were in the shadows, sharpening teeth they didn't know existed. They thought silence was your weakness. They saw your stillness and mistook it for surrender. But let's make one thing crystal clear. Wolves don't howl before they hunt. They don't announce the strike. They don't bark for approval. They move in silence, with purpose, with precision. And when they hit, it's over before the enemy even realizes the hunt began. That's you. That's how the chosen operate. Not loud, not showy, but lethal when it counts. This world is addicted to performance. Loud voices, flashy masks, empty flexing. Everyone trying to be seen, to be heard, to prove something. But you were never about the show. You never needed applause to validate your path. Because the real ones know, power doesn't parade, it prepares. And while they were broadcasting their every move, every fake win, every manipulated version of themselves, you were loading, building, becoming. You didn't need to defend yourself with noise. You didn't beg to be understood. You let people believe what they wanted because you already knew the truth. Your silence was strategy, a calculated restraint. You weren't hiding. You were studying, observing their patterns, memorizing their habits, letting them underestimate you so they'd never see the strike coming. They called you mysterious. They said you were too quiet, too private, too hard to read. That wasn't an accident. That was your advantage. Loud souls move in desperation. Quiet ones move with purpose. They broadcast every step out of fear they'll be forgotten. But the chosen don't need to be remembered in real time. They engrave their presence into the aftermath. Think about it. Look at history. The most dangerous moves were made in silence. Revolutions didn't begin with fireworks. They started in whispers, in secret plans, in shadows. Even in nature, the predator doesn't roar. It stalks. It adapts. It becomes invisible, right before it strikes. That's the kind of power you carry. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands respect without ever asking for it. And yet, there were moments you doubted that, weren't there? Moments you looked at the noise around you and wondered if maybe you were doing it wrong. Maybe being humble, quiet, patient meant you were falling behind. But you weren't behind. You were being refined. You weren't silent because you were lost. You were silent because you were syncing with a greater frequency. And that frequency? It doesn't move on ego. It moves on timing, on precision, on divine alignment. Let them call you boring. Let them assume you're harmless. Let them overlook you. That's the blessing. Because what's not seen can't be sabotaged. What's not understood can't be copied. You weren't built to be predictable. You weren't designed for constant visibility. You were built to strike only when the impact matters. And now, look around. The same people who dismissed your quiet are feeling your absence like a thunderclap. The ones who mocked your restraint now realize you were the backbone, the glue, the stabilizer. You didn't need to bark. You didn't need to boast. You just moved, and the shift was undeniable. That's the kind of energy that haunts people. The storm that was silent until it hit. It's easy to confuse stillness with weakness, but here's the truth. Only those who have mastered themselves can stay calm in chaos. Only those who know their worth don't chase validation. That's not passivity. It's discipline. And in a world full of noise, your silence is sacred. Your calm is power. Your ability to wait, to watch, to strike with precision rather than panic, that's what separates you. So if anyone's wondering why you didn't react, why you didn't clap back, why you didn't spiral when they tried to shake you, it's because you were never scared. You were focused. You were never desperate. You were calculating. And now that your move is unfolding, they're stunned. They never saw it coming because they never saw you. They only saw the version of you they created in their heads. And now that version is gone. What's left is the reality, the force, the one who watched in silence while they underestimated everything. And now, the tables have turned. The quiet one has moved. And just like that, the entire field has changed. So keep moving in silence. Keep building in the dark. Let them think they've got the advantage. Let them laugh. Let them howl. Because when the wolf moves, it doesn't warn. It wins. Number 6. Mirrors and smoke, the illusions they believe. They weren't looking at you. They were looking in a mirror they couldn't handle. And when it cracked, it wasn't your reflection that shattered. It was their illusion of control. They built entire stories about you, crafted narratives in their heads, painted your silence as guilt, your peace as passivity, your distance as defeat. But here's the thing about illusions. They always crack when the light hits. And you were the light. You were the truth they weren't prepared to see, wrapped in calm, carried in silence, delivered without force. That's why they feared you, even while they mocked you, because your presence was a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. People project. That's what they do, especially when they encounter someone who doesn't flinch. You didn't overshare. You didn't try to convince them of your worth. You didn't defend yourself every time they twisted your truth. That made them uncomfortable. Why? Because it exposed them. You didn't play their game, and so they convinced themselves you were the one losing. But while they were performing for the crowd, you were observing the entire stage. And now that the smoke's clearing, they're realizing you weren't the one hiding. They were. They believed the illusion because it was easier. Easier to call you weak than admit they couldn't shake you. Easier to mock your silence than admit it made them nervous. You didn't react the way they expected, so they made up reasons to dismiss you. You ever notice that? The more still you became, the louder they got. That's not coincidence. That's fear disguised as arrogance, because deep down they knew the one who doesn't speak is the one they should be most worried about. They thought they were seeing you, but what they saw wasn't your truth. It was their distortion. Your compassion made them feel exposed. Your grace made their manipulation look pitiful. Your boundaries reminded them how little control they actually had. And instead of leveling up, instead of facing their own reflection, they tried to break the mirror. They chose illusion over evolution, ego over elevation. And now, they're drowning in the very lies they created. This is what happens when people try to box the chosen. When they confuse mystery for mess. When they label what they can't understand as weakness. But chosen ones don't fit into boxes. They break them. And while they were trying to shrink you to fit their narrative, you were expanding beyond it. Quietly, steadily, without warning. You weren't just the mirror. You were also the smoke. You let them think they had you figured out. Let them get comfortable in their assumptions. That's strategy. That's control. While they danced in front of illusions, you were behind the curtain, building the reality. That's why they're confused now. They thought they were watching your downfall, but really, they were watching your decoy. And now that you've moved differently, now that your power is showing up in ways they can't explain, they're panicking. Not just because they underestimated you, but because the mask they wore in your presence is starting to melt. And they can't remember who they were without it. They'll say you switched up, that you changed. But the truth is, you didn't change, you revealed. You stopped dimming your light. You stopped softening your voice. You stopped letting their lies sit on your name without consequence. You stopped playing small to make them feel secure. And now, they're exposed. The illusions they believed about you are crumbling, and it's not just inconvenient, it's devastating. Because for some of them, their entire ego was built on the belief that you were beneath them, that they were in control, that they could manipulate you, use you, keep you in the role they assigned. But chosen ones don't stay assigned. We ascend, and your ascent? It's shaking their entire foundation. You don't need to defend yourself now. The results speak. Your presence speaks. Your evolution screams. And the silence they once mocked, it now haunts them. They're looking back, trying to make sense of it, trying to trace the moment it all slipped out of their hands. But there is no moment. There is no single point. Because you weren't playing a part, they were, and the scene's over. So let the illusions burn. Let the mirrors shatter. Let the smoke clear. Because what's left standing when the lies are gone? You, unshaken, unbothered, unmatched. They thought they were watching a collapse, but they were witnessing the calm before your rise. Number 7. The Chosen's Shield, Armor of the Cosmos. They tried to break you, but everything they threw bounced off, because you weren't walking through this world naked. You were armored in something ancient, something unseen, something they'll never be able to touch. They thought you were vulnerable. They saw your kindness, your patience, your open heart, and they mistook that for a weak spot. They assumed because you didn't bite back, you could be bitten. Because you forgave, you could be used. Because you let them speak, you must have nothing to say. But what they didn't know What they couldn't know is that you are shielded by the very fabric of the universe, protected in ways they'll never understand, watched over by energy that doesn't need to be loud to be lethal. Every time they plotted on your downfall and nothing stuck. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. That was protection coded into your DNA. While they were trying to invade your peace with their chaos, you were walking through the fire wrapped in cosmic armor. And that armor isn't made of steel. It's made of purpose. Every betrayal, every setback, every storm you survived wove another layer around you. Not to make you hard, but to make you impenetrable by anything that doesn't resonate with your frequency. The universe guards its investments, and you, chosen one, are one of its most sacred. You carry light that disrupts darkness. You carry insight that rattles deception. You walk into rooms and shift atmospheres without saying a word. And that's why the wrong ones get so rattled by your presence. Not because you're aggressive, but because their chaos can't touch you. Their tricks slide off. Their gossip gets blocked. Their manipulation gets swallowed by the force field of your truth. Understand this. Not everyone was sent here to be protected at the level you are. You're not just another person passing through this world. You were placed, assigned, built for disruption. And with that kind of calling comes a different kind of protection. You felt it, haven't you? That time everything should have fallen apart, but somehow you were untouched. That moment you were surrounded by snakes and yet came out without a single bite. That gut feeling that told you to leave, disconnect, stay quiet, and later you found out just how much it saved you. That's not instinct. That's intelligence from beyond. That's cosmic insulation. Your intuition isn't just a sense. It's the voice of the universe whispering through your bones. Not here. Not now. Not them. They tried to mess with you like you were ordinary. They threw shade like it could land. They sent energy your way thinking you'd absorb it, but you weren't built like that. You don't absorb chaos, you transmute it. You don't carry their pain, you reflect it back, louder, clearer, and with consequences they never see coming. You're not just protected, you're mirrored. What they send bounces back, and what they do echoes long after you've walked away. Let them wonder why their plans never hit. Let them spiral trying to figure out how you keep rising when they keep pulling. Let them whisper about your glow while burning themselves trying to dim it. Because that armor, it's not visible, but it's very real. And the more aligned you become, the stronger it gets. But here's the thing. The shield isn't just about defense. It's about discernment. It teaches you who's safe and who's trying to siphon your light. It keeps your energy clean by filtering out anything that doesn't serve your evolution. That's why people fall off. That's why connections crumble. That's why some folks just disappear from your life without drama or closure. They couldn't penetrate the field. The universe saw what you couldn't and removed them without permission. And that's protection in its rawest form. You've walked through fires that would have burned others to ash, and you came out cleaner, clearer, more whole. Not because you're better, but because you're covered. Covered by timing, covered by truth, covered by a frequency that refuses to let harm stick to you. The same things that crushed others became the very things that fortified your shield. So the next time someone tries to come for you, let them throw stones, let them test you, and then watch as their efforts fall flat. Watch as their own chaos consumes them while you keep rising. Not because you're untouchable out of arrogance, but because you're wrapped in purpose that won't be disturbed. The armor of the cosmos doesn't make you cocky, it makes you calm. Because you know you're not walking alone. You know everything that's for you is protected, and everything that's not for you will bounce off before it can leave a scar. They'll keep trying, chosen one, but the result will always be the same. Confusion, frustration, collapse. Not because you fought harder, but because you never needed to fight at all. You were protected the whole damn time. Number 8. Mistaken for the moon when you're the sun. They thought you were borrowing your light until they tried to dim you and realized you're the one everything was orbiting around. You were mistaken for the moon, silent, reflective, soft. They looked at your calm, your stillness, the way you held back in chaos, and they thought, oh, this one just follows. This one just glows when it's safe. This one only shines when someone else lights the way. But what they never realized is that your light didn't come from anyone else. You are the source. You are the heat. You are the damn sun. And now, they're burning under the truth they tried to bury. People get uncomfortable around energy they don't understand. You didn't roar like them, so they thought you had no voice. You didn't show off like them, so they thought you had nothing to offer. You moved in peace, so they assumed you had no power. And the entire time, you were carrying galaxies in your chest. The moon reflects light. The sun creates it. The moon waits for the sun to rise before it can be seen. But you were never waiting. You were rising the whole time, quietly, intentionally, without needing applause. And now that you've stepped into your full radiance, now that you're walking with the heat of your purpose, they're realizing they misread the entire script. You weren't the backup. You weren't the support role. You weren't the silent follower meant to orbit someone else's light. You were the center the whole time. The gravity, the pull, the energy, the light that made other people feel warm, safe, seen. But they didn't respect it. They took your glow for granted. They got comfortable basking in your warmth, forgetting that even the sun can scorch when disrespected. And now, they're blinded, dazed, wondering how you went from gentle to untouchable. They're disoriented because the version of you they had in their head, the version they built on projections and fantasy, no longer exists. They thought you were the moon, harmless and distant, but what they failed to realize is this. You were never reflecting their light. You were restraining your own. You weren't trying to shine brighter than anyone. That's not your style. You were just trying to keep the peace, trying to protect the room from the full weight of your glow. But some people take restraint as weakness. Some people think just because you don't demand attention, you don't deserve it. And those are the ones who end up scorched by the very light they ignored. Think back. How many times did you dim yourself so others could feel comfortable? How many times did you hold back your brilliance because you didn't want to make someone else feel small? You were never afraid to shine. You were just trying not to outshine. But now the universe is pulling the veil off. It's telling you no more shrinking, no more soft-stepping, no more pretending to be the moon when you are clearly the sun. They couldn't see it because their vision was blocked by ego, because your power wasn't loud, it wasn't showy, it was sovereign. And sovereign energy is misunderstood by those still performing for approval. You didn't need to dominate to be powerful. You didn't need to chase validation. You didn't need to speak every time they tested you. You were the answer. Your existence was the proof. And now that the truth is revealing itself, They're uncomfortable, not because you changed, but because you didn't need them to validate your glow. You're walking in it, regardless. And the worst part for them? They know they had access, they had proximity, and they fumbled it. Let that fuel you, not in bitterness, but in truth. The kind of truth that says, you don't have to convince anyone of your worth. You don't have to prove your shine. You don't have to explain why your light feels so different. You just have to own it, fully, loudly, unapologetically. Let them wonder how you stayed so quiet, so composed, and still ended up miles ahead. Let them wrestle with the reality that the one they thought was just a reflection was actually the source the whole damn time. Because here's the truth. When you're the sun, you don't chase. You rise, you light the sky. You pull planets into alignment. And when people try to dim you, they only prove how blind they really are. And now you see it, chosen one. The silence was never weakness. The solitude was never abandonment. And the doubt. That was just the enemy's last hope to keep you from rising. But it's too late now. Your power is fully awake, your path is protected, and your presence untouchable. Let them regret what they mishandled. You're not walking alone. You never were. If this message hit your soul, like, subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments to claim your power. Share this with another silent warrior, because when the chosen rise together, the whole world feels it. Let's keep the energy moving.